My name is Dr. Brittany Martin, and I am the CEO of Doctoral Mom Incorporated, which is a nonprofit that provides resources to mothers and doctorate programs. And the reason why we're having this particular session is because we do have a lot of questions surrounding child custody, divorce in our group, and I wanted to create a webinar that will be able to address some of those situations. So many of you don't know, I do have 3 toddlers. They're 3-year-old twins and a 2-year-old, and I recently just went through a situation myself. So that's how I got to know Peter and Nicole. So I'm a single mom now. But I wanted to bring them in because they helped me tremendously through my situation. They were just so great and giving me updates, providing me with education. So I wanted to share them as a resource to all of you as well. So first, I'm going to actually start by introducing Peter first, if that's okay. And then I'm going to introduce Nicole, who you see here as well. So Peter Olson is an attorney at Chicago Family Law. He's pro-family, divorce, and child custody lawyer. He has so if you have a relationship or if you want a relationship with your son or daughter, Peter is really a great resource to reach out to because he's been doing this for a number of years and he has a wealth of knowledge. And I'm going to let him more formally introduce himself as well. And then we have Nicole Turpin here. So she's been an attorney for 4 years, but let me tell you, Nicole, 4 years, she sounds like she has 40 years of experience from my perspective. So she's excellent. And she's also a mother. She has a 13-year-old son. She's a single mom as well, like myself. So I do want to just kind of pass the baton over to them, let them introduce themselves, and then I'll kind of toggle back and forth in case we have like questions from the audience.
Hey, well, thanks, Brittany. Thank you for inviting us. And yeah, so first, I was checking out your Doctoral Mom's webpage. Number one, I was a little concerned that neither of my alma maters are listed. So, shoot out something to, Winona State University in Winona, Minnesota, and Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. So that's one little quick nugget. My next degree will be a doctorate in industrial psychology. If anybody's in that field, that's really where my head is. So if you have any referrals to a good school that has a good online program, I really am super motivated about basically, psychology in the workforce, in organizational leadership. So that's totally an aside, but here we go. So here's how I planned on structuring this half hour, okay? And I'm assuming the chat, the chat box is active. So, chat questions throughout. And, Nicole and I can kind of be monitoring that. And, I think it works better when they're kind of flowed into the presentation versus just like 17 questions at the end. So, yeah, Nicole and I, work together in the family law space. Basically, really our mission as a business is, kind of family transformation. A lot of that is legal services provider. We've also kind of been making a move into a little bit of digital stuff, creating a digital community and some digital courses. So I'm kind of excited to be doing more and more of that to really have a bigger audience, like around the world rather than just basically one-on-one legal services in Chicagoland. So not sure totally what's in our bio, but basically our websites are familylawchicago.com and your.family. We've been experimenting with those new domains that aren't just .com. So here's the agenda. Instead of just kind of like talking bullet points and statutes, I always feel like storytelling is the way to go. So we were going to tell 3 stories that really pull out some points of emphasis with regard to family law, right? Custody, parenting time, child support, all of that stuff. But, rather than, hey, here's the statute in Illinois and blah, 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 We're going to talk some client stories. Obviously, they're kind of confidential and private in terms of names and stuff, but the stories are much more interesting just talking statutes. Okay, so here are our 3 stories. I'm going to call them 3 vignettes. Nicole's got 1 and I've got 2. Okay, and then Nicole and I can kind of dialogue with each other as we're going on, and obviously with the audience. So Brittany, feel if you want to MC whatever, I'm cool too. So here are the 3 vignettes. Okay. One is going to be called Christmas in Mississippi. I'm calling it an unexpected Christmas in Mississippi. Okay, that's going to be our first story. It's going to be a good one, so look forward to it. Or in parentheses, death by 1,000 cuts. The second story, Nicole, you got this one. I don't know if I told you the title, but A Train Ride to Parentage Court. Okay, that's our second story. And then our third story is, let's see, I'm a freshman at the University of Chicago. That's my homage to, doctoral mom. So if anybody's at the University of Chicago, maybe you'll run into this person because she's actually the daughter of a former client of ours. Okay, so here's the first story: Christmas, an unexpected Christmas in Mississippi. Okay, so we have a current client who kind of has this situation, and the unexpected Christmas in Mississippi, though, is sort of based on a former client, but a current client had the exact same situation. It kind of made me think of his situation. And, here's what happened. A guy had a couple kids, and I think still has a couple kids. It's just his case ended a while back. So maybe 5 and 8 years old. This guy is essentially the primary parent of these kids. I think they lived in the city of Chicago. And these kids are they're coming home to dad every day. They're going to school at the neighborhood school in the city of Chicago, doing well, thriving with dad. Nothing had ever been in the court system, right? Him and the mother, unmarried relationship, are separated. And mom's involvement is pretty darn limited. I think the occasional holiday visit, but dad is the majority parent. Dad is the home that these kids call home. Their social world is dad's neighborhood. Their social world and academic world is the school they go to near dad. And so dad's their life basically, right? I mean, it's this family of 3 living together. So here's what goes down. Okay. Now, let me emphasize a point here. So nothing's in the court system. As I'm telling the story, nothing is in the court system at this time. So that's kind of one bullet point to emphasize, is kind of when something's not in the court system, crazy stuff happens and you're leaving yourself wide open to crazy stuff happening. Okay. So here's what goes down with these guys. Okay. And why there's an unexpected Christmas in Mississippi. Literally, dad, whose relationship with the mother of these 2 kids isn't awful, but like I said, her involvement is minimum. Mom shows up at the kids' school on the Thursday or Friday before winter break, before winter break, and just basically, right, she's the legal parent in the sense that she's on the birth certificate, she's in the school records. There's nothing that tells, Principal Smith, that's just a made up name, but, the principal or, the admin at the school, that she can't, get the kids, right? There's nothing there. There's not an order of protection. There's not, an order that says she doesn't have parenting time or something. So what does mom do? Mom gets the kids, let's just say it's December 22nd in Chicago, and takes off to Mississippi. So that's the unexpected Christmas in Mississippi. Okay. And, fundamentally, my big point there is that's why you really need something in the court system, even in a very quiet or, uncontentious way. If it's kind of a wide open situation like that, that sort of thing happens where, all of a sudden other parent I just want to see my kid for lunch or something, on his birthday. And next thing you know, it's unexpected birthday or unexpected Christmas in Mississippi. And so uh, so what did we do? What did we do? I mean, just to close that story out, basically, I got this guy an order of protection because under the Illinois Domestic Violence Act, not to get too legal on you, concealment of children is what's called harassment, right? It's kind of abuse and harassment under the Domestic Violence Act. We got this guy basically an order of protection because the mom was concealing the children in Mississippi. And so long story short, this guy, I'm even forgetting what his name is. This is about a 6 or 7 year old case. So we have a current client who had the exact same thing happen, and the mom ran to LA. And so this guy takes his order of protection issued in the Circuit Court of Cook County, goes down to some county in Mississippi, hooks up with the sheriff down there. And then I think, thankfully, he knew, I think the mother's father, like the grandparents of the kids lived in Mississippi. And he kind of knew / had some like longer term relationship there. So he knew where they were, because the real concern and the big trick on those situations oftentimes isn't really the legal piece. I mean, I've done that kind of like concealment order of protection a number of times in my career, sadly, because you get those like grab and run situations more than you think. Just had a call on one of those yesterday. But sometimes it's like, what if you don't even know where the other parent and the kids are? So thankfully, the unexpected Christmas in Mississippi did happen, but thankfully life and normalcy returned back to Chicagoland, I think within about a week. It wasn't too bad, again, because the court process was pretty straightforward in terms of what I needed to do. And thankfully he knew where mom and the kids were in Mississippi. And so then thankfully, sheriff in Pascagoula County, Mississippi, or wherever he was, helped him out and was able to get these kids back. So that's kind of my first little vignette, the unexpected Christmas in Mississippi. And just to wrap it with a couple really points of emphasis. Number one is just kind of the risks of not having a case in court. And we're definitely not like in the business of creating or promoting conflict, because I feel like there's that stereotype where, I mean, not just lawyers, but if there's something in court, it sort of has to be high conflict or that sort of situation. But more cases than not are not that high conflict. And number two, the risk of not having something in court is really pretty grave, as that situation was intended to sort of highlight. I know a couple of years ago, I actually had a blog post, and it was entitled, it was something like my family law resolution for 2019. And my point was, I would really love there to be more sort of quiet, uncontested, what we call parentage or custody cases. In other words, cases where the parents aren't married, because it's very strange to me, and I don't think it's the best situation for families. There are a lot of uncontested divorces. There really are. And what I mean is, if we have like 75 cases as a firm, probably the largest percentage of cases we have going are actually uncontested divorces, believe it or not. That's not that unusual. But you don't see that many when the parents aren't married, kind of just doing a simple uncontested case, just really for the sake of everybody, really a win-win for parent, and really kid, right? Give them the structure. They don't have to be anxious for the rest of their life or every weekend about what's going to happen to them. So, have a case in court. It can be relatively quiet or uncontested, believe it or not, but believe it, it absolutely can be.
Peter.
Yes.
Can you repeat what the law is what the Illinois law was that you mentioned for concealment of a child?
Well, this is under the Illinois Domestic Violence Act. This is basically, right, in popular parlance or language, that's an order of protection. Gotcha. Okay. And let me even share, let me say one other thing is that, my last little bullet, it was basically the emphasis of having stuff in court. Cases don't have to be that contested. stopping the grab and run, right? Stop the unexpected Christmas in Mississippi case. And, the other point of emphasis was a little bit unrelated, but it was actually, this happened to the same guy who had the grab and run to Los Angeles. That's a current client of ours. He actually came in with another new case recently. And right, your two big things, it's right, you want to stop like the grab and run to Mississippi. But the reason why I called it in parentheses, Death by 1,000 Cuts, which I think is an old book, but little did I know there's actually a recent song by, who's that soft country artist? Nicole, you got her?
I like country, but I have no idea. But maybe.
I can't grab it. I'm terrible. It's not my strength. But the idea is, what's even the bigger problem is, and this guy has been dealing with this guy who brought us a new case, it's just, he had no parenting time ordered. He has a judgment that says, like, when everybody agrees, he can have parenting time, instead of specificity where it says, Thursday night at 5 o'clock, Bill's parenting time starts when he picks up, his kid at the mom's house, and Bill returns, his kid on Wednesday to the mother's house. But that was the other point. It's just, if you don't have a case where there's ordered and specific time, the other parent can just take and take and take, and all you're going to get is like the minimum that other parent's going to give you. So here, let me just share something with you guys quick, and then Nicole, I'm teeing you up on a train ride to parentage court.
Okay.
Here, I'm sharing my screen I just wanted to give you guys a quick bullet, and this, you don't need to see our vision for our company, but this is a, tell me if that size is okay, and I can send this to anybody, but it's basically just a simple, quick look at what does a case look like when you file. We use the word custody, though in Illinois, what we really do now is we allocate decision-making responsibilities and parenting time. 5 years ago, we changed the verbiage of things. We don't have custody anymore. But my point is, there should be more over here. There should be more cases in the uncontested box that are getting, like, people are walking in with a lot of agreement, and then you're just getting a final parenting judgment, entered in 3 months. That can happen, because it happens a lot on the divorce side, much more than the unmarried parent side. And I won't go too deep here, but this is a little bit of a look at what does a more contested case look like, in terms of kind of like dealing with temporary issues, temporary parenting time. If you're getting real heated, we definitely have 5 to 10 cases where, an attorney for a child has been appointed. I know one of Nicole's has got one going right now, when things are, pretty heated, so you don't have to be 18 months. And frankly, most cases aren't 18 months. So just wanted to give you that little snapshot. So, so that's vignette number 1, an unexpected Christmas in Mississippi. It sounds so kind of like sultry and exciting, doesn't it? It almost sounds like a John Grisham novel, doesn't it? I think he's from Mississippi, isn't he? I love a good John Grisham. I know he's got a new book out. I've been intending to grab it. It's my next book. So here, I'm taking down the share, Nicole. And yeah, let's talk about your situation. And you can say if that's a dumb name or not, my train ride to parentage court, but that's what I called it.
So I do wonder why the train ride to parentage court, unless it was for speed, because this was a pretty quick thing. She went from nothing to finalized case in a very short period of time. Is that why you termed it the bullet? Or the train ride?
Well, I thought, honestly, I'll accept that. What was the start to finish on that case? Was it about 6 months? And then I'll let you go into it a little bit more. It wasn't too long, right?
No, maybe 8 months.
Okay.
8 months,
And,
yeah.
and for everybody's info, right, this is a case where there was another attorney and stuff, so it wasn't like super chill, but the other attorney was semi-reasonable. And no, the train ride is this, I thought the guy worked for one of the railroads. That's where I
Oh,
pulled the train ride from. So you can go on. To my
okay.
knowledge,
So
the child was not conceived on the train.
no, and this was a pretty juicy story, so good for both entertainment and learning. I would say that this woman had the client. I'm just going to call her the woman. The woman had full custody. I'm still going to use that term as that's what most people use. Still had full custody of the child, and the ex, or the person that had impregnated her, was giving her minimal contribution just to give her something on the side. When the child was 5, she learned that the man was actually married and had an adult or older teenage child. Well, she had older children of her own, but that totally changed everything for her, I think. And she wanted to move forward with the process of getting more, I think, for her child. He was, I believe, giving contributions like free and clear, like on his own, of $200 a month. That is not a lot, especially in his case, where, like Peter said, he worked for the railroad and made a decent, I think over 100 grand a year, right, Peter?
Yeah, I think it was like 125 or something.
So the $200 a month was nothing for this guy, but it also wasn't doing much in the sense of helping her out, as she had to get childcare. The father never had the child, like he never did overnights, probably because he had this other family. But she she wanted to get him on the hook for more financial support, because $200 I don't think was even covering her childcare for the month. But this went through court, and he did have an attorney, so it was a lot of work between me and the attorney. I wouldn't say it was a lot, like excessive work, but it was all between me and the other attorney. Uh, it still took some time to get some agreements made before she's finally been given a decent, reasonable amount in child support that'll come right out of dad's paychecks, which I definitely think she was entitled to. Um, all women, okay, whether you're in a juicy situation or not, I know that taking care of a child is not cheap ever. It's never cheap. And you should always go after what you're entitled to. No sense in being overly dramatic or bloodthirsty, trying to get too much, but get what you have coming to you, definitely. What, Peter?
I was just reacting to the aggressiveness that you were going after the finances.
Oh, were you saying yes, you should go after it aggressively?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Where did we end up with? I mean, right, generically, this person, the breakdown this individual we ended up getting was somewhere around 875 a month in support, right?
Yes, plus a certain credit towards the child care.
Right. What did we do? Because just for the
And support.
audience, right? There's often child support, not often, right? Child support you're always going to get, and then typically your above and beyond issues. Above and beyond child support would be stuff like, what else did we get her? Like contribution to some extracurriculars.
Yes, the child had swim lessons and bowling and something else. So dad got on the hook for 50% of those costs and expenses, in addition to the child support amount, which was also upped.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I
And I
mean,
think we got dad on the hook for 60% of all medical related that was outside of the insurance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, your typical above and beyond child support are, school related expenses are almost always going to be part of it for, just for the audience. Right. I mean, even, a lot of the public schools I know, and, I think the one I live in is, right, you're paying like $600 at the start of the year, even for a public school. So uncovered school related stuff, uncovered medical, you're always going to get that above and beyond child support. Extracurriculars, I see a little bit of, sometimes not, or a lot of judges will put a cap on it, like maybe 1,000 a year, 500 a year. And then the other one, especially for working parents, that's probably this group here. The daycare after school care is almost always going to be gotten too. So, there's a lot of money in that little circle above and beyond the whatever that 875-ish or whatever we got for this client of ours. And then we also got her, I think they split the tax dependent exemption for the child, right, Nicole?
Yes, she was going to get, or no, I think they settled on every other year.
Yeah, that's pretty common. If somebody's paying support at a reasonable level, and so long as they're current, a lot of times, that guy would get it, because he is, at the end of the day, now he's paying, maybe $1,000 a month out of pocket or something, like when you add all those things up.
When he was paying $200 a month, he was definitely not getting to claim the child as a dependent. Just so
absolutely.
You all know.
And I mean, some of the bullets, just to be aware of, right? What moves the needle in child support? Because child support usually is pretty straightforward. Illinois law is a formula. It's basically a math formula. What really moves it though? It's income of the parties, right? I mean, if everybody's just kind of a straight wage earner, then it's about as black and white as you can get. If somebody's more I mean, I'm a small business owner, right? So I pay myself different than, just wages. So, real world, that type of person, business owner, can kind of move their income around a little bit different. So, that's something to look for. Number of overnights is a big thing. The law changed on that, 5-ish years ago, where somebody has 146 overnights, more or less, changes child support a lot. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think the difference in a 2-week period is sometimes you'll hear, hey, I talked to somebody just recently and they're like, oh yeah, the other parent wanted me to change from 7 nights every 2 weeks to 5. And I'm like, don't do it, buddy, because 5 nights is under 146 overnights, 7 is over. That makes a dramatic difference. They're basically like 2 different formulas for child support.
And if I can jump on that,
jump in it.
Also, because it's the number of overnights, if one party has the child mostly every day during the day, but the other parent has the child at night for the overnight, that the actual overnight is what will count. So just because you have a lot of time with the child, you need to have those overnights. So make sure that you have that, or that you're paying attention to that.
Yep. No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's just right. Just, I don't know, sausage and laws. I mean, it's all just about the language in the law, and that's what it is. It's overnight. It's not time. And so, I mean, right, if I just ran just a couple fake scenarios, both parents are earning $80,000 a year. If the parenting time is basically sort of equal, or sort of both parents are above 146 nights, there's probably 0 child support obligation. Whereas, if somebody's like getting alternate weekends and they're both making 80,000 a year, so then clearly that, the not majority parent is under 146, child support 707 a month. So that moves it a lot. And then just moving on, now we'll get to our third vignette here in a second. The other thing that moves the needle a little bit, it's income, it's number of overnights, and it's if there are other kids, if there's another family, so to speak, That's a big factor too that people need to be aware of. So I think it was a little bit in play in that case you were talking about, right?
So
I think we were able to kind of couch it and get her more money, but I think that other attorney could have played it differently.
Likely he could have, but did not. Thankfully for us, it was in our favor.
Absolutely. So, all right, Nicole. So, like it or not, hopefully, yeah. So hopefully that kind of highlighted some. Here, I'm going to answer just this kind of, not to get too far sidetracked. Well, here's the deal. Without doing like a super deep dive, other children, right? If we're talking about child support for one child, like in the case we're talking about here, if the father who was paying support has another family with other kids, the other kids serve to like reduce his income. That's what it does, just plain and simple. If there's another child support order for another kid at, let's say, $500 a month, that $500 is deducted from this guy's income before child support is calculated. So to make it simple, there are other kids outside the case you're talking about at issue. Those other children serve to reduce the income of the parent, which in turn serves to reduce the child support obligation. I don't know if that was even too convoluted, but it lowers their income, bottom line, and therefore lowers child support. So, all right. So here's my last vignette. This is
wait, Peter.
What do you got?
Can you answer another question? What makes custody cases go longer than expected?
That's a long answer. Look, can I pause on that, because my last little story, I'm a freshman at the University of Chicago, kind of is a custody case.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fair. I'm not sure when Brittany's going to come in and pull us off stage. So,
well, once you tell us a story, I'll probably throw out a couple questions at you, because I got emails. I got like a ton of emails with questions in them too, so I'll throw them out there.
All right, I'll make this one quick. Okay. So yeah, that's such a bad title. Hi, I'm a freshman at the University of Chicago. So here's just a quick point of emphasis, and I'll make this one like a 3 to 5 minute little vignette. But here's the story. It's a guy and his wife. I think these guys were actually married. Had a couple kids. When we got involved with them, they were probably like middle school, like maybe a daughter who was, I don't know, 7th, 8th grade. And I think there was about a 3 or 4 year difference. The others, somewhere around sophomore, junior in high school. And what was really super heartwarming, it's really one of my favorite little like client wins, where it's like, hey, because I saw this guy maybe a year ago, our client, his name was, I'll just say Jimmy. I don't think that gives away anything. And he told me I hadn't seen him in a couple of years because our heavy lifting was a few years back. And he's like, hey, Peter, my daughter's doing great. She's a freshman at the University of Chicago. And, really did feel good, because when we were doing the heavy lifting on this case, where we basically changed custody from mom to him, the story was like, these kids, the mom just like left the kids with like her mom, right? The grandparents of the kids. And then next thing you know, mom went to Atlanta with the kids. And, our client's always here in Chicago or South Suburbs or something. And it's like, he's just kind of getting jerked around, this third party. I mean, I love grandma too, but still, dad's rights are in front of grandma. And then she's down in Atlanta. And then I remember, like, these kids went to like 5 different schools over the course of a year or two. Like, they're intelligent, high performers, i.e. now she's a freshman at one of the elite universities in the world, frankly. But like, she was going to I wrote down, and this is like pre-COVID, some weird online school where she only went to school 3 hours a day. And then just all sorts of strange, just sort of like made up religion schools. And I mean, so it was just a very odd situation where it really felt gratifying that I remember when we kind of had this custody hearing, this custody case, a lot of it is just that lack of stability, like the kid's not going to school. And we were able to basically put this kid into a better, just far better, more stable situation. And, so my just kind of like bullet under that story, because I don't want to go on too long, is just kind of, when you do have really serious stuff, you do have to kind of come in hardcore and make some changes. Because most cases aren't that. But when you think of really like super high impact, like wins for like parents, but also the children, it's when you have the cases like that, where totally unstable family, missing a ton of school. I see that situation quite a bit. And just, but because that's what the law is on sort of like stopping somebody's parenting time. It is the other parent a serious endangerment to the child? And 95% of cases aren't getting into that box. But when you have no school, just letting weird people around the kids, just totally unstable homes, that's the time when you do really need to kind of step in and kind of cut that other person's parenting time down. Or I'd even written down, it's beyond the scope of what we're talking about here, but once in a while, if somebody has like a new significant other or a new spouse, I'm always kind of looking for some step parent adoptions. Sometimes that's a good case too, where, I'm remarried and now my husband or wife is really the real kind of household at this point, and really, you can, right, when you're talking about step parent adoption, it's basically pushing that other parent who's a real problem and an unfit parent, like permanently out of the child's life. So that's my abbreviated, hi, I'm a freshman at the University of Chicago. But that's really the point, is when you really have a troublesome other parent to really make a big change, you can really get a big impact. That's right, that kid's life, I mean, the whole trajectory of that kid's life is different, really, because this guy took the initiative, candidly with our help, got this kid in a stable, good environment. And now, hopefully they're off to the races. Maybe maybe she'll be in the mom's doctoral group in 4 years. Is that good, Brittany? Yes, Nicole.
Just to jump on that and piggyback, I want to say that I myself am a prodigy or product of a step parent adoption. And it was great for me. And I don't think that with what you'd said, Peter, is I don't think anybody forced him to do it. I think he genuinely wanted to adopt me. And it did force out that troublesome parent, my biological father. It was definitely a necessity and great for my personal upbringing. So I would definitely recommend that.
Thank you for sharing that. I didn't even know that. See, we hardly even know each other.
I know it was personal.
Yeah, I know you like to get personal, but no, I could, yeah. I won't, but yeah, I mean, I remember not long ago, we had like two exact same situations going on at the same time. And in one of the situations, this woman and her now husband took the initiative to do the step parent adoption. Now the weird ex-husband's out of this kid's life. This other person who had the same picture, right? New husband, stable family. The guy, I think, had actually been in jail, the biological father, but she didn't really do anything. She didn't take action. Next thing you know, the dad's out of jail and he's messing with her again. He's messing with this kid. He's messing with the new family. And it just, right? Like this family is just like set, secure, boom, the kid's thriving. This family, it's just still fighting about little crap for the rest of the kid's life. And it's too bad, because they could have done the exact same thing. Hi, Brittany.
Hey, I jumped back in there because we just got a question that was sort of relevant to what you were saying. So This person is they actually sent me a message privately, but they're in a situation where they do have like a dual family, but the children, of course, have actually different mothers. This is the father that has the situation. Um, so I guess this person's father is asking, because he is a male, what's his likelihood of being able to retain the children from both mothers, or what sort of steps should he be taking to sort of keep both his children in place rather than have them split and go to the mothers separately? Like, is that possible?
Did he have a pre-existing, like, were the kids formerly living with him?
Yeah, the children are with him now, I guess, due to some extenuating circumstances. But one of the mothers, I guess, wants the child back. I guess that's sort of the better way to reframe this question.
Peter,
Oh,
take it away.
well, I didn't, well, the only thing I didn't follow was the two moms. I mean, so he is, or he has two different children by two different moms and they're both with him.
Right. And they both live with him. One mother has, I guess, given up her rights, and the other mother is now asking for her child, her daughter, back at this point.
Oh, well,
This sounds like
Well-
sounds exactly like a case.
whoa, wow. Well, with, Brittany, just with that little nugget, I mean, of course he can keep them. And the concern there is that's when you need to kind of just get a court case going where, that is sort of what, cemented? Because, once he kind of, because right, the door's wide open there if mom starts to have time with the kid, I mean, yeah, I think Nicole's referencing a case where it's kind of like, mom's just not giving the kid back because there's no court order. There's no court order that says anything, right? Until there's a court order that says anything, the reality is mom has the same rights dad does and nothing, right? And right until judge says, parenting time is X, Y, and Z. So, I mean, that's a long way of saying,
Should dad keep possession of the children and file something on his own?
yeah, I mean, that's the perfect really time to just be initiating a case. It's like,
Because whoever initiates it kind of leads it. Yeah.
yeah, I would say that's a little bit true. And, but you just need something because otherwise, that's the nightmare situation where, mom keeps the kids and now it's like, oh, now you're in court in 4 months and it's like, oh, mom has possession and now dad's going to be alternate weekend parent or, that's the risk. So
I have another question based on this. Say dad does keep possession. Now mom couldn't say kidnap or withholding children, nothing if there's no previous order in existence, right?
right. No, I mean, that's half the reason why, right? That's half the reason why you just want something in court that says that provides court ordered structure is because, prior to there being something in court, nobody's kidnapping anything. If I have my kid with me, I'm the dad, I'm all good. But, now post court order being in place, I'm showing up with the police on a court order and it's like, hey, mom does not have parenting time, or, mom has parenting time on Saturdays and Sundays, and now it's Thursday and she's refusing to return them. And now you have a little teeth there or a hammer or whatever you want to say. And now you can do stuff in the court system. Heck, you can do, some kind of Amber Alert or something. You really could be in the kidnapping box because now somebody's, violating, orders.
Order. Did that answer the question completely?
I think it did. And we had another question that came in earlier. I don't know if you guys got a chance to get to this one. The audience member said earlier that she has a child, I believe, who's 8 at this point. The father, the biological father, provided little support in the beginning. Is it too late now that the child is older to ask for child support? And then the second part of the question was, if she wants to relocate with her new husband since she's remarried, what does she have to do? Does she have to notify the father? What's the procedure if you want to relocate out of the city?
Yeah, advanced question. Well, so let me do this little decision tree. Well, I'm going to separate the two and then bring them back together, because the answers to both questions might, I don't know, like the motives on those two questions might be like contradictory. And let me explain. So if something's ever been done in the court system that says anything, right? Somebody is the majority time parent, somebody has custody, just anything, right? If there's a family law case in court, the law in Illinois is that in the 6 collar counties of Chicagoland that we're dealing with, you can go 25 miles or less from the child's current residence, just willy-nilly with no involvement in court. You don't have to tell the other parent, right? I can move from, I don't know, I can move to Chicago. I live in the near northwest suburbs. I think my suburb is 17 miles from downtown. So I could move a little farther out, but more than 25, you need court approval if there's been something in court before. If there's no case in court, do whatever you want, go wherever you want. Sometimes that's a strategic question to think about, because right, to bridge to that other point, okay, you want child support, you can get child support. And in fact, in an unmarried situation, you can sometimes actually get retroactive child support, going backwards a little ways. So you can absolutely get child support on that case, sometimes going backwards, definitely going forward. But if there's nothing in court yet, you might want to balance your motives there, right? If you really do want to move to, Tampa, Florida, I'm just making that up. Then you might want to keep it out of court. If you know what I'm saying? In other words, to get the child support, you need the case in court. But if you put the case in court, now you're stuck on that 25-mile circle. So you might want to go to Tampa first and then file the child support case. There's your answer.
We just got a really good question into the chat. So what about can it be retroactive or apply if an individual is still married but separated?
I saw the chat, and there's a strange difference under like these two laws, right? The Illinois Marriage and Dissolution of Marriage Act, right? You're dealing with married people, unmarried people. Illinois Parentage Act. The Illinois Parentage Act allows, in theory, it's hard to get, but in theory, back to the date of the birth of the child. In theory. I don't see that being given a lot, but sometimes you'll get a year or two backwards. In the divorce situation, it's not in there. You can only get it going like prospectively. So I don't know. Talk to your legislature, because I find it weird that's like that. Why there's such a risk in unmarried relationships that like you could file a case when somebody's 16 and ask for like back child support, and you usually don't get that many years. You might get a year or two, but just the threat of it is pretty wicked, I think.
And there's no cutoff on the age then? Just for clarity purposes, it doesn't
There's
matter
no
how old the
cutoff on
child
the
is.
age. I mean, well, like I said, I'm rarely seeing a judge do much retroactive. Once in a while, a year or two, but like we had a case where this guy was looking at 16 years and the state of Illinois was trying to get like 120,000 on him. And, just the risk of it was, we basically settled and the mom got a couple years and like 9,000 or something, if I recall. But, like I said, like just the threat of that is pretty compelling. It's like, my gosh, okay, I'll give you a year or two, because I don't want a judge to like have to decide, oh crud, this guy like literally was almost going to be on the hook for 100 grand. So we're like, okay, we'll give you a year or two, and gave her 9,000. But Brittany, that's a long answer to the question, but for whatever reason, in the marriage situation, the law does not provide for that same retro like it does in the unmarried situation.
No, I thought that was perfect. That was a great example too. I'm going to try to squeeze in 2 or 3 more questions with you, if that's okay. Someone brought up grandparents' rights. So can you talk a little bit about that if they deemed like their child to be unfit for their grandkids? Have you worked on some of those cases?
Whoa.
Where the grandparents are unfit to have like
Or the
visitation.
parent is unfit and now the grandparents want to come in.
Yeah. Huh. Ooh. There are a lot of different tracks you can go on that. That might be an offline question, but so right there, we have an active case asking for grandparent visitation. That's a thing. It's not always an easy win, I'll tell you that. I've won one, and this current one, I'm not holding my breath on, to be perfectly honest. So like the idea that just like mom and dad or whatever are here, and I just want like maybe a weekend a month as grandparent. So that case is out there, grandparent visitation. Now, if you're talking a more unfit situation, where it's like, I want to be the majority, like real full on kind of parent, then you're kind of thinking about, are you doing a guardianship? Are you doing like getting like legal custody or even an adoption? So yeah, so there's like visitation if you just want to like see your grandchildren. But if that parent's like out of there and you're going to be like the parent, if you will, quote, quote, then it's more of that kind of guardianship, adoption, custody case of your own. And those are all viable. They have just different levels of permanency, right? If I'm a grandparent and I adopt my kids, right, that other parents are gone, right? You're now the parent. Whereas, custody and guardianships are quite permanent, but not permanent. They're changeable.
I actually got this question via email. So someone asked about the stimulus money that we're getting. So like one parent, I guess, files and the other parent does not. Are they entitled to the stimulus or the tax credits in any way, especially if they have like 50-50 parents in time?
Oh man. We've dealt with that question recently. Well, because what you always deal with at this time of year is, my ex-wife filed the kid on their taxes, right? You get that one all the time, right? My understanding on the stimulus is that most of them, the last one's a little bit weird. I think that technically is supposed to be on your 2021 taxes, but I don't know, talk to somebody else about that. But on those first two that were clearly within calendar year 2020, I think they were supposed to go to whoever had the right to claim the kid on the 2019 return. So, generally, like Nicole was saying, or just like would be like normal operating procedure, if you have, right, it's going to be allocated in a judgment. It's going to say like who gets to file the kids. So like if that's you for 2019, that person should have got, they should have filed them and then the stimulus should have gone to them. I don't know if it got weird and somebody had the right to file and they didn't file taxes. I don't know. I mean, quite honestly, if there are dependents out there that haven't been filed by somebody else, I would file them. I mean, you're right. I mean, if I've supported them, right, if I'm the other parent. So I don't know that, but I know that's the technical law on it, is basically whoever had the right to file 19, we're supposed to get. That's where the stimulus money was supposed to go, to that parent. But
So it would depend on if that parent had claimed, like the parent that filed taxes, if that parent claimed the children on the taxes.
Yeah, I think if I put 2 dependent kids on my 2019 tax return, I was supposed to get those first 2 stimulus payments. The last one, like I said, is a little weird, especially because it was falling right like early 2020. But the first
So
2
I think the question more so, I mean, and Brittany, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if the 2 kids, I'm sorry, and I just lost my train of thought. I am so sorry.
I think I know what you're gonna say, Nicole. Nicole and I have worked together for a couple months now, so Nicole and I are like very in sync now. I'm gonna see if this is right, if I could guess what you're gonna say about like, let's say one person files and it's like 50-50. Do they have to give them anything? Because they can file, but like, let's say they get the money, like the $1,400. Are they obligated to give the other parent like half or no?
I think
Was
the
that
answer
what
to
you were gonna
that's,
say,
I
Nicole?
think, yeah.
Yes, and it would depend on, did the parent who claimed the children on the taxes, is that the actual main parent or where the children live? And
Yeah.
was that parent paying child support? I'm sure all those questions would come into play.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, Brittany, it's like the idea that somebody needs to give part of it to the other parent, I think is almost pretty much a no, you know.
Okay.
No,
I think that
I mean,
answers that.
unless there's like a case that's like active or something, if we're talking about like an old judgment that said, hey, mom and dad alternate who gets to file, like I get even
Mhm.
years and, my ex-wife gets odd. And so therefore she got 2019. She got
Mm.
2019 and she got those two dependent, stimulus checks, so, and they're hers. And so, yeah, I can't see many situations where they'd be split. Now it's that's one of the dumber, but I mean, that's predictable every year, the tax dependent fight, try to file first and then, IRS flags you. And then I think you need to file a paper return for them to actually correct it if it's done incorrectly, but.
And then the last question I'm gonna throw out there at you guys, and I'm gonna let you give out any final advice or wrap up the way that you see fit here. But I guess the question, because we have both fathers and mothers in this audience today, but the questions always come up. Is it more difficult for men to get custody or parenting time, and sort of why do you think that is, if that's true?
Well, I'll tell you. Here's my take. I would say very minimal lean, very minimal female lean, very minimal, maybe 55-45 if I were just kind of like putting numbers on it. Now, here's really where I go is, in my experience, you don't run into that many cases where it isn't sort of clear, right? As long as you're not dealing with a newborn or like, let's say 2 and under, right? 2 and under, who knows what happened? Or, who knows what the parenting picture was? Because you basically have no past, right? This kid was just born essentially. You know what I mean? If you have an older child, let's say 2, 3 and above, or certainly as you're getting older, right? I find very few cases where it isn't sort of clear who sort of was being the majority parent beforehand. And to me, that person is going to have the advantage. I mean, unless there's like a fresh breakup, I mean, then to me, it's a coin toss, I mean, if it's a fresh breakup, it's a fresh breakup, just kind of like a newborn where there's kind of like no history, right? Like there isn't like a clear, somebody's been sort of the more majority parent versus the other. But I feel like in most cases I'm running into, parents have been separated and one person is sort of more the clear parent, and therefore that person, man or woman, is going to have the advantage because little Johnny goes to school by that person, and that parent is the one who's handled every doctor's appointment for the last 5 years. And so that's where I go, is usually the history directs it more than the gender of the parent.
If you
But
want to have involvement with your children, you need to definitely have some parenting time established. The sooner the better. I just learned this from Peter. Don't let an excessive amount of time go by before you're able to see your kids, because that will play against you in court. Like, you're the parent, but you've not seen this child in X amount of months, years, whatever. Definitely jump in before that happens.
Yeah, I mean, when we see people with what we call legally as restricted parenting time, Brittany, and that would just mean like they're not getting overnights, or their parenting time is pretty limited. I think anything that doesn't include overnights is by law restricted under the law. But here's where I was just going. Very few of the people we're dealing with who have restricted parenting time, clients or the other side of cases, they're not the child molesters or the murderers. You're not running into too many of those. The people who are getting restricted parenting time, it's the people Nicole talked about. It's the people who have been out of the picture for a year or two, even if they're a decent man or woman. Judges love the like, oh, you need to kind of create a bond again, or I haven't seen your kid in 2 years. And that's when you get into this cycle. I hate to be in it, where it's like, okay, you can start here and you can ramp it up. Believe me, we can ramp it up. But that's a great point though, is more often than not, somebody's not really a serious endangerment, but they've let so much time pass where it's kind of like the general MO that we see is a judge is going to be a little bit hesitant before they're really going to allow full-on parenting time, just due to the time gap.
Because the judge will figure it would be harsher on the child. It would not be in the child's best interest. And that is always the goal, the child's best interest.
All right. So, audience, let's give Peter and Nicole a virtual round of applause in our chat by just saying thank you. I did put Peter and Nicole's emails addresses in the chat. I also put their website there. I'm going to start with Nicole first, and then we can go to Peter. But did you want to leave our audience with any remaining comments or pieces of advice based on the conversation we had?
I know that people can get aggressive in this, and I totally understand it. Definitely, as a parent, especially, fight for what you have coming. Definitely. And as far as the which sex kind of dominates, as an outsider walking in, when I first started working with Peter, I had that misconception too, that the dads will never get what's coming to them because it always goes to the female. And one of my very first cases is one where the dad is the main custodial parent. And I was like, oh, and the mother is alive and in existence, but she just has minimal visitation with her kids. So it is definitely possible for dad to be the main parent and have control in his kids' lives. Aside from that was my only end thought.
Yeah, I don't. Here would just be one little nugget for me to close, Brittany. Here's where it is. Married or unmarried. One of the courses, a course I created recently, it's a digital course, and I'm not trying to do an overt sale of it, but it's called Achieve Your Magnificent Marriage. And one of the points I make in it is actually that the state of your marriage sometimes is basically the emotional state of your children. If people are fighting all the time at home, that's going to impact your kids big time. But I think the caveat, whether married or unmarried relationships, is just if people aren't taking the time to just kind of create structure, right? And more often than not, we're talking about court-ordered structure. Just think about the impact that has on your kids if they're kind of just being tugged between two parents with no structure, throughout their childhood. That's a big thing. I mean, we could do a super deep dive on issues in your childhood, family of origin that impact you for the rest of your life, right? You're an anxious kid because I never knew when I was going to see my dad when I was a kid, or that type of thing. But so, I mean, that's the point. Just kind of think what is the emotional kind of structure world you want your kids to have, because it matters, you know, in the next year, but it also matters when they're 46, you know, because I mean, that's what I am. And, you know, I wasn't in a family that was split up or anything, but, you know, there's all that weird family of origin crap. And I see it in my wife, and everybody's got that. So, you know, kind of, you know, create the best structure you can for your kids, because it's a kind of, it's a lifetime issue, not just a 1-year issue.
I totally want to jump on that because you're correct. Whatever environment the child is in will definitely have its effect on the child. Myself and my soon-to-be ex-husband, currently going through divorce, we definitely had a toxic relationship. We would fight like cats and dogs. And I now know that that was having an effect on my son. Now that I'm going through divorce and this person's been out of my house and out of my life, it's just me and my son, but we're the best of friends that we could be. And I'd say that I'm now working on showing him how to treat a woman, going through steps, and definitely how he should be treated and how I want him to act in the world. A big learning lesson recently was apologize and admit when you're wrong. It's not something I formerly did. I just started doing it 2 years ago. Nobody likes admitting when they're wrong. It doesn't feel good for anyone, but do it because it changes your outlook as a person, like the way people will look at you. Oh, that's a pretty straight up, decent, honest person. And I'd say that my son is learning this lesson now. It's definitely don't have toxic environments around your kids. It could go either way. If you're unhappy, your kid's probably unhappy too.
Yeah, I'll chime in on that and then I'll wrap us up a bit. But I know for sure that that's true, having just gone through that process. So if you have to, you know, go through some type of custody situation, I would just say just always be conscious of how you're interacting with the other party, about kind of your demeanor overall, because that could impact the children. So that's kind of my bit of advice as a mother, having gone through this situation. But again, having individuals like Peter and Nicole like on your side to sort of help you navigate through it, I think is really important. I know a lot of people don't actually seek legal counsel and like try to go through these processes on their own. I strongly suggest trying to retain somebody, because it takes a lot of the stress and pressure off of you once you go through these situations. So thank you so much, Nicole and Peter, for joining us today, our audience for joining us, asking really great questions. We are going to upload this presentation to our Facebook page, Instagram, YouTube, and then we'll probably do a watch party in about a week from now, so that we can continue to ask important questions in regards to this topic. I'll email those questions over to Peter and Nicole just so they can connect with you guys offline, because I know this is a sensitive topic, and you may have some questions that you may not have felt comfortable asking here, but I do want to give you the opportunity to connect with them both later on. And then just a quick update in regards to Doctoral Mom Incorporated. We do have an active scholarship out now, which is going to close on April 28th. So if you know a mother in a doctorate program, please tell her to visit doctoralmom.com and apply to our Dorothy M. Thomas Scholarship, which is for $2,000, but we're going to issue it on Mother's Day, and then around that time, you'll see a new scholarship being promoted. And then a special thanks to Welcome to Fatherhood. I'm a board member for that organization. They provide assistance to fathers, for helping me promote this event and pulling together some individuals to attend. We're going to also share this presentation to their platform to ensure that we're helping mothers and fathers. So thank you guys so much for doing this for us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys soon. Everyone have a great day.
Thanks all. Take care. Bye.
You too.